The custody case that I'm involved in right now is out of Lackawanna County in Pennsylvania. My children and I left their father in 2003. In 2007, I tried to file an emergency relief hearing on behalf of myself and the children against their father. The following morning, I found out the guardian ad litem filed an emergency relief hearing on behalf of the father and the children against myself. Temporary custody had been transferred, and since then I've been paying a supervisor to see my children once a week for 3 hours, or whatever I can afford. I can't remember what else.
All right. You're forced to have supervised visits. You can't afford it. They tell you to get more jobs.
Okay.
You never did anything wrong. Your husband has money, and surprise, surprise, he's the one that ends up prevailing, and that happens almost all the time. And the courts, our legislators need to change the way the family courts are structured so that you don't have such easy cases of one person that can be so easily influenced. If we had a jury, then you'd at least have 12 people you'd have a shot with. And the guardians, it's just been a ridiculous situation. I mean, a lot of people are saying they just think the whole family court thing, the whole children and family services, or whatever it's called in Pennsylvania, needs to just be completely dismantled. It didn't exist in most states until the mid-1970s. Hey, we got a long fine for 150, 200 years before that. So, all right, why don't you talk a little more, and I'll edit this so we get 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. Great. I'm sorry we didn't have the camera on you the first time, because that was very heartfelt, powerful. So, did you ever do anything wrong? Why did your husband succeed in this? What needs to change? How bad is it on you financially?
my entire family insisted that he couldn't take my children away from me because I never did anything harmful to my children. And then in August '07, when they were gone, they finally realized it was all about money and power. I can't afford anything. The guardian ad litem was charging me $250 an hour. The supervision costs me about $200 a week. So they told me to get more jobs if I wanted to see my children more often. The father is much wealthier and has a little more power in Lackawanna County. They said that I told my children to tell a lie, which never happened. I never told my children to tell a lie. And he called us a bunch of liars. The guardian ad litem, no matter what I do, following her recommendations, writes up reports that are just insane. I had to pay $3,000 for a psychological evaluator. This past June 25th, the evaluations were done in 2005. And this year, in 2012, on June 25th, he stated in Judge Munley's office that I have a personality disorder that is worse than men who are serving life sentences for vicious and malicious crimes, and that I cannot be helped.
Who said this?
Ronald Reefus.
He's the guardian ad litem?
He's the psychological evaluator.
Okay, so the psychological evaluator, who was arranged by who, the court or the guardian ad litem?
Court appointed through Brenda Kobal's office, which is the guardian ad litem.
So they set up a psychological person to find a ruling that favors the father, says that you have a psychological disorder.
Personality disorder.
Personality disorder.
Worse than he's seen in his 40-year career. Worse than men that he knows that are in prison for malicious and heinous crimes.
Do you think you have a psychological disorder?
No, I think I just love my children. I want them to come home.
Have you had an attorney in all this?
My first attorney was hired, Frank Ruggiero. Then my second attorney was hired, George Clark. It was during George Clark representing me when the guardian ad litem was appointed. George Clark was the district attorney in Lackawanna County. He gave my case to Brian Calley. Brian Calley never showed up at a hearing, never returned my phone call, never answered the phone when I called, left me sit by myself in a courtroom, kept my money. He still sends me Christmas cards every year. I never met him, I never spoke with him. I ran out of money and was appointed Pennsylvania legal aid, Dan Flynn and John Bogdanovich. When they were supposed to be representing me is when the transfer of the custody of my children took place. They told me not to worry about it. It was August, and school didn't start yet. That was in 2007. Since then, they passed me off to the Barbara Hart Justice Center. My first attorney there, I think, was Romelda Crocomo. Nothing happened. Nothing was filed. There were no hearings. My second attorney through there was Lori Bullock. Nothing happened. Nothing was filed. My third attorney there, I think it's my third attorney there, is Jody Lewis, who is supposed to now be representing me. And Devin Fagan, I think her name is. She's supposed to now be representing me. They've filed another IFP, which I was told I couldn't file again from 2007. They also filed for the supervision to be dropped. There was something that happened 3 or 4 months ago that Judge Munley was in charge of, and he didn't see either paper in front of him, so they had to refile everything. Nothing happened. There's still nothing happening.
So you went through a lot of lawyers who took your money and did nothing. And then you went through court-appointed lawyers who did nothing. At least it sounds like the current one has done a little something.
They keep throwing it away.
The court does.
Judge Munley.
What's his first name? Is it he or she?
He. I know it. I just can't think of it right now.
It's all right. I'll get it.
The judge that initially signed the temporary transfer was Harhurt. Judge O'Malley is the one who denied my IFP and pointed in my chest and yelled at me because I didn't have any more money.
I'm sorry. Denied your request for informa pauperis to where you didn't have to pay fees. Denied it.
Yes. And I think that was October 2007 or 2008. I worked 3 jobs. I worked for the Head Start Intermediate Unit with children, but the federal government doesn't fund that program anymore, so I don't have that job. I'm a school bus driver, and I was teaching Sunday school, and I did everything that worked great with my kids. Now I only drive a school bus, and I can't work more jobs. Nobody wants to hire me if I can't work Saturday. That's the day of my visits. It takes me 2 hours to get up to where my children are, and more than 2 hours to get home. My kids don't know what's going on, and I don't know how to help them. I'm not allowed to send them a birthday card. I'm not allowed to talk to them on the telephone. I'm not allowed to send them text messages. I'm not allowed to go into their school.
Let me ask you to say something I can use as a soundbite. I'll try to take a few things you said and put them together.
I'm sorry. It's very emotional for me, and I'm really sorry.
Hey, Jen, it's emotional for me, and I want you to just show your emotions because it's going to be more powerful, so don't feel like you have to hide it, okay? I'd like you to say something like this. How many years have you been a school bus driver?
I think it's 4 now.
Okay. I've been a school bus driver for 4 years, a Sunday school teacher. I previously was a Head Start teacher or whatever you
What's your state?
Ever been arrested?
No.
Never been arrested. Never accused of any wrongdoing.
No.
Until my husband arranged to seize my children, or whatever you want to say. And I'm being forced to spend a fortune that I don't have simply to pay $250 an hour to have the right to see my children with a supervisor or something like that. I want you to say something that says, here are the jobs I had. Because when somebody hears you're a school bus driver, a Sunday school teacher, and a Head Start teacher, you can't do those things if somebody thinks you have a psychological problem or you're a bad person or can't be around kids. And yet your husband moves in and does this, and now you're being asked to pay money that you when people hear that your guardian is charging $250 an hour, they're going to go, what? Let's try to make a statement where you just talk about the jobs you've held and how you've never been arrested and you've never done anything wrong. You just love your kids, and yet your husband came in and moved this, and now just to see your children, you got to pay $250 an hour that you can't afford to see them as much as you want to because you just don't have the money. All right, just do your best with it.
I was a teacher with Sunday school, worked for the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Program as an early intervention teaching assistant. I am a school bus driver for over 4 years now, I think, and the custody was transferred to the father. I have to pay fees to the guardian ad litem that are $250 an hour. Everything is cash through the system. The supervisor's $25 an hour. You've never broken any laws. I have never been in jail. I have never been arrested. I have never done anything belligerently against the law. And I have to, it costs me over $200 for 3 hours worth of time with my children, over 2 hours away from my home.
That was excellent. Why don't you say something that expresses why it is that you feel that your husband has gotten the rights and they've been denied of you, the money factor, whatever you want to say about that. I mean, if you feel that, you know, I mean, it seems to me like he's got money,
He has money.
he's got connections, you don't, you lose.
When I still had the children in my custody in Northumberland County for child support, we'd gone to a hearing, and I took in what little paperwork I had because it's always cash business on the farm up there. The hearing officer told me that I was showing tens of thousands of dollars a month that the father was making, but he awarded me $88 in child support. When the father took the children from me, he told me if I didn't come home, that he was going to take the children off of me, drown me in debt, and I'll wish I was dead, which is very close to what he's done. He does not have a job per se. He owns all of his things. He allows certain people through the courthouse to assume that he still has what's the word? video footage of people that don't want people to see certain things.
He does secret surveillance?
No, he owned a bar years ago that a lot of people from down at the courthouse would patron, and the doors would be locked at 2. He had full surveillance inside and outside of the building. They all think that the videotapes still exist.
They think he's got the goods on.
His property burned down 2 times, but that was his personal home, which is where everything was. And I think those people assume that the videotapes were either contained in a maybe bank vault or someplace safe. They have no idea they're all burned up in the fires. So I think he uses that as leverage. I think a lot of it is also clout within the community. He's a farmer. He claims he makes $700 a month. The taxes on the farm are over $10,000 a year. He brings in Joe Garbarino from New York to do his taxes. He spends quite a bit of money to make sure that his books are good, to show his income of $700 a month. It sounds crazy. I can't believe it. When people ask me a question, I don't even want to answer them because it doesn't sound sane. But it's what's happening in my life every day. I have no money. My paychecks are pathetic. I don't make enough to see my children. My family tries to help with the financial burden, and they're all broke now. We're all broke. We're all broke. My children are so confused, and I can't even try to begin to explain to them what's going on, because I don't know. I'm just a mom. You know, I just do mom things. I don't know what things are called. I don't know. I don't have courthouse vocabulary skills. But I know how to be a good mom. And you can't be a good mom in 3 hours once a week. Right now, I haven't paid my light bill in 6 months because I used that money for my visit. I have no core insurance because I spent my core insurance money on visits. Every penny I get, I spend on my visits to see my kids. I can't get jobs. People don't want to hire you if you can't work Saturday. I don't have degrees. I don't even want degrees. The people that I have to see in Scranton with degrees, I don't want a degree. I don't want to be affiliated with people like that.
Do you want to send a message to your girls, or would that violate anything?
I don't know. They constantly, I have no paperwork. I have, the paperwork that I have, I was born and raised in Trevorton, Pennsylvania, in a little small town. My great-grandfather came over from Poland. He was an engineer. He did maps of the coal mines. My mother has 10 brothers and 3 sisters. We're just family people. Sorry.
It's okay. June, you don't deserve to have had this happen to you. It's just not right.
My daughter shows up with black eyes. My children were returned home with sunburn so severe. It was horrible. Recent black eye, she said she was sleigh riding and hit a well cap. That was a week old. One eye is now smaller than the other. This is her 5th black eye. They all say, don't worry about it. But I say it's always on the same side and he's left-handed. I know. I didn't leave because I was being selfish. The house is a $2 million beautiful estate farm, and I moved to Section 8 housing because life is so great on the farm. I don't understand how people think that. You don't leave anything money can buy if something's not drastically wrong. We left. We lived in a 2-bedroom, Section 8 housing apartment, very small, and we were so happy for 4 years. Now everybody's sad again. Except for Daddy. He laughs. He thinks it's funny. It's affected my entire extended family. My mother's seen the children, I think, 5 times. Everybody has to have background clearances. I have a twin sister. Her kids are like mine and vice versa. She saw them one time this year because they live in Virginia and we're all broke. We're broke. We were okay, now we're all broke. They try to send me money to help so I can see my girls. And nothing happens. It's still the same. We had a half a hearing in August 2007. The hearing, halfway through, Judge Munley said, I have a dentist appointment. We'll continue this at a later time. The only thing that was established at the first half was their father said that I'm making this up, that we're liars. All we do is lie, lie, lie. And there's never been a continuance. Judge Munley said, we'll just leave it like this until we continue the hearing. Now they're saying that the REFIS report wasn't paid for. That's why the hearing wasn't continued. They said that for about 3 years. I paid for the REFIS report. I have the REFIS report. It's 9 pages of badgering me, saying that I'm from New Jersey, saying that I was raised by my aunt. I don't even have relatives in New Jersey. My mother raised me and my sister and my brother our whole lives. None of the report is correct. It says just so many crazy things. And I was sitting on the stand and Judge Munley Barbara O'Hara was questioning me, the opposing attorney. And Dan Flynn and John Bogdanovich weren't paying attention. And she said that the girl's father said that my boyfriend and my husband live in my home with me and are abusing my children. My children and I lived in Section 8 housing alone. Judge Munley said, are you sure you're not married and your boyfriend doesn't live there? He asked me like 5 times. No, the girls and I are here alone. They want me to prove it. I can't prove that I'm not married to someone. I can prove that I grew up in Trevorton, Pennsylvania, and that I never lived in New Jersey. I can prove that my mother raised me. But I can't prove things that I didn't do. I'm tired. It affects everything I do. The last 2 years I lived without heat because I need that money to see my girls. My light bill is about $24 a month because I can't turn a light on because I need to see my girls. I can't even replace anything that I use for visits because I need that money to see my girls. I get a bath and I'm worried because the water bill's going to go up, because the light bill's going to go up, because the fuel's running. It's insane. I can't take care of my own health. Brenda Kobal, the guardian of Litem, on June 25th of 2012, asked me when the last time I saw a doctor was. I haven't seen a doctor. It's going to be 6 years. And she said, no, I meant a psychologist. I said, well, Donna Bryant, that you appointed me at $100 an hour cash, I haven't seen her since the last time you know of. That was, I think, 4 years ago. I go to counseling with the Women's Resource Center in Northumberland County. Brenda Kobal says that's not good enough, that I need to have a psychologist. She's appointing me a psychologist again at $100 an hour cash. It is going to be Donna Bryant again. When we saw her the first time that the children were with me, she said that I paid more attention to one child and ignored the other because we were reading the instructions for the game. That's the report. The children used to scream and cry at visits. The one visit they missed when they were in custody with me from 2003 until 2007, I called Brenda Kobal's office, and this Carol Miller, who actually testified at a hearing, everything was backwards. Backwards. Everything was backwards. She said, you do whatever it takes to make sure those girls are transferred to their father for their visit. And I tried to tell her the children wrap themselves in the seatbelt so I can't get them out of the car. Then she asked me what the screaming was in the background. I said the girls don't want to go to their visit because they're afraid. And she said, I don't care what you do, you just get them down there. So then I called our pastor. And we prayed. And he said, I have to follow the law. The law says I have to give him my children every Friday for his visit. And then we called the police. They told me you need to follow the court order that says he has weekend visitations every other week. Then we went to the state police. And the state police said you have to send them at 5 o'clock. 7 years old. 7. And she said, my daughter at 7 years old, she said, the law should be like the church. God should be the only judge. And I had to make them go. It was horrible. They'd come home, they'd have nightmares. Daddy said he's going to smash your brains on the wall. They'd wake up screaming. Somebody's trying to get in the window. Nobody's getting in the window. It was horrible. And when they first took them and transferred the custody, the children would cry. They did not understand that I was only seeing them for a few hours. And he would bang on the door and just stand outside and badger us. The second supervisor, Gina Teague, my visits after 3.5 years were finally at my friend Sherry's home. It took 3 years for them to inspect Sherry's home so we could have visits at my friend's home. I have 2 friends up there because I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. Brenda Kobal allowed Sherry's home to be used as a visit place. The only 2 times that we can't visit at Sherry's home is Mother's Day and Valentine's Day because she works in a flower shop, and those are the 2 busiest days of the year. So we have to find an alternative place. When I first started visiting my children, we were going to the Clarion, the Hilton, the Radisson up in Scranton. The visits were 12:30 to 3:30, but I had to pay a 2-day stay because checkout time is 11 and check-in time is 4. So it was really expensive, plus the supervisor, plus the food and whatever they needed. February 14th, last year, not this year, 2011, Dina Teague came to the Clarion. We did the visit. When it was time to leave, the girls went out to the parking lot. I stood in the lobby, and I was watching. Their father started an argument with the supervisor in the parking lot of the Clarion Hotel. This is not the first argument he's had with the supervisor. He sees the supervisor for less than 3 minutes to drop the children off and pick them up. There's no need to speak with the supervisor. The visits are every Saturday, 12:30 to 3:30, unless something needs to be changed, which is never by me. She called me about 30 minutes later and told me she doesn't have to put up with this. She said, I don't need to have altercations with Jack. I'm sorry, I can't be your supervisor anymore. So we got a new supervisor. The supervisor called me and asked me some questions. I told her we now visit the children at Sherry's home every Saturday at 12:30 to 3:30, except for Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. She then proceeded to call the father and ask him questions. He has been inconsistent in everything he's ever said. Then I received a bill from Brenda Kobal's office. Actually, the call came first that said I was lying about where the visits take place. When I show up for a visit with my children, because I have to protect my children and myself, I took my video camera. That was $23 a week to make sure I could videotape our visits. They told me I'm not allowed to do that. And I told them that if they need evidence of me abusing the children, I will have footage for whatever they need. They were still angry. Stephanie, the new supervisor, told Brenda Kobal's office, Jack said we don't visit at Sherry Glay's home. And I said, that's not true. We visited there since October, every Saturday, except Valentine's Day and Easter, or Mother's Day. He said it was a lie. He said I'm lying again. I said I have video footage of the children at their age now, which is over 3 years after they've been gone. I have pictures at Sherry Glay's home. If my children hadn't been there with us, with the supervisor, the most current pictures would be from before August of 2007. I have footage from every visit, every single visit. I compose a summary of every single visit. I compose how much I spend. I compose how long it takes me to get there.
Sorry. Did I interrupt right in the middle of a perfect line?
It's okay. It's just about time, but go ahead. You've got to prove. It's just...
Nobody wants to see anything. They don't want to see the pictures. They don't want to hear anything I have to say. They treat me like I'm a child and just brush me off. They tell me, we're going to try and get supervision dropped. It's been 5 years. But nothing's happened. I've never harmed my children. My nieces and nephews, my sister has 5 children. They want to talk to Judge Munley. They want to talk to Brenda Kobal. They want to tell these people, my Aunt June was with us before she had her kids, and we don't understand what you're doing. We don't understand what this is about. Never harmed a hair on any of them. I think the biggest law I ever broke was I put a quarter in the meter and it didn't click. And I put another quarter in the meter and it didn't click. And I got a $5 ticket for parking downtown. That's about it. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. Oh, I had to pay for those tests too. They called me up and they said, your drug test came back. It's negative. And I said, can I have my money back? They sent someone to my home Saturday morning for a breathalyzer test. The children were visiting with their father that weekend, and it took them, well, it was $250 an hour, including their driving time. It took them 2 hours to get to my home, about 2 hours to set up the breathalyzer test. They told me to blow harder, blow harder, blow harder, and I was blowing really hard, and that came up. I'm just a mom. Get up in the morning, make my kids breakfast, get them ready for school. We do crafts when we come home at night. We don't have cable. We don't have internet. We have a phone. We have time together. We do things as a family, or did. We don't do those anymore.